Hey everyone, welcome to the Fervor Review. Today, let's talk about a film. We're going to change things up today. Because yesterday, as I was taking a walk outside around my neighborhood, it was snowing out, and with the little snowflakes dancing upon me, it made me think a lot about Saturday Night Fever and how much I should really watch this film. Mostly, I'm thinking about the Capital One commercial where John Travolta is dressed as Santa Claus, strutting down the streets of Brooklyn and busting out some disco moves at the very end and asking you, what's in your wallet? And I just think this commercial's hilarious. I think it's so funny. And I get that Capital One's trying to capture the whimsical, is that the word? And glamour and feel-good vibes of disco in the disco era. The thing is, Saturday Night Fever is actually a very dark, disturbing film. So I thought, let's talk about it. So here we have my copy of Saturday Night Fever, and I think this thing is so cool. You got the John Travolta striking his pose, right? I guess it's this way. And the DVD behind it is a disco ball. Isn't that great? I think it's pretty rad. And I don't know what made me ever watch this movie, to be honest. But over the last, let's say 10 years or so, I've asked a lot of people about this film, and a lot of people have not seen this movie. And I do think Saturday Night Fever is probably one of the most underrated, but misunderstood films. Because I think when you look at this film, okay, you tell me if I'm wrong, you think it's just about disco. It's just about having good time and vibes. Sorry, there's such a glare. Well, let me tell you, friends, you're partly right. It is about disco and good vibes. But that's just like a little glimpse of it. There's really so much more that's happening around the lives in this disco era. And I think this film was a great glimpse into that type of era, that the cultural aspect of disco in the 70s. I think it was a short-lived era. I think disco wasn't a very long thing. I just think of that 70s show and they kind of totally rip on disco, but hey, I like it. And I even thought I would share my album soundtrack of the film. My mother gave this to me. It was a high school graduation present that she received when she graduated from high school. Now, my mom graduated in 1978, but this was actually came out in 1977, but my mom's from a small town in Iowa, so things maybe took a longer time to get to her. But regardless, she gave me this. I love this. I love the Bee Gees because of this movie. And look at this inner panel here of this album. It is so groovy. I don't say so myself. So, really great things. But, let's talk about this film. Because again, it is very much misunderstood. Tony Manero is John Travolta's character. And he's 19, he's living in Brooklyn, and he's cool. Like, Tony is super cool. I love the scenes where he's like drying his hair and, working on his hair, combing through it. And he tells his dad he can't come down for dinner because he's got a shirt on already. Which I believe that Tony Manero is probably the original Guido. Like, he's the OG. If you're familiar with Jersey Shore, I totally get like OG vibes from this movie, which I just love. I love that so much. And Tony, he works at a paint store. He lives at home. He loves to go to 2001 Odyssey to do his disco, and he's a really good dancer. I mean, John Travolta can really dance. And he takes it actually very seriously. And he's a nice guy. He's a cool guy. Everybody likes Tony. I would say he's just like a local celebrity, and he loves it. He eats it up. And he's confronted with a couple interesting themes throughout this film. And there were two things that really changed Tony's mind about stuff. I would say Tony is a representation of somebody who is maybe the coolest person in the room or the smartest person in the room who needs to find a new room. And when he meets Stephanie, she's a little older than him. She definitely has career aspirations, and she's the first person who really confronts him, like, what do you want to do with your life, Tony? What do you want to do? You're just like every guy I've ever dated. You're a cliche. You're going nowhere, and there's no place for you. And I don't think it seems that he never really had anyone confront him on those things. And it starts to really, the wheels are moving for him. He's like, yeah, what do I want to do with my life? The second thing that kind of changes his perspective on his life is when his brother comes home and leaves the clergy, because his brother was a priest, and made him realize that maybe he wasn't as bad as he thought he was. He even says to his brother, hey, if you're not so good, maybe I'm not so bad. And he gets really excited that his brother left the church. His parents, they were heartbroken that their son, who's the priest, that they could brag about and tell their friends is no longer a priest. And it really just has this rejuvenating effect for Tony. He's like, oh my God, maybe I'm not such a bad person after all. I'm not a failure. My parents have always made me feel, which is, I think a lot of us could relate to this, okay? Like, there's a lot of things in this film that I think a lot of people can relate to at certain parts in their life. Maybe not everything, but I think like little elements here and there, little things, just can be like, whoa, I can get that. So, Tony hangs out with his friends. He kind of does the same thing. And his friends, they're just, honestly, they're like F-boys, if you know what I mean. Like, they're such douchebags. They're really just into being irresponsible and doing drugs, getting drunk, hooking up with random chicks at 2001 Odyssey, and that's it. They don't really have any ambitions. And then you have Annette, who is also featured in that commercial, by the way, who's like, where have you been? Well, Annette, she's obsessed with Tony. And you know what? Everyone's obsessed with Tony. And she's a cute girl. And I think had things gone differently in the film, maybe Tony would have ended up with Annette. But he realizes, Annette, you just want to be another married sister. Tony's like 19. He's just like not really into stuff. He just has it's like he just kind of has like a certain thing that he's kind of going towards, and she just doesn't fit the bill at this time in his life, okay? And he's honest with her, but he's nice to her about it. I mean, he's direct, but he's nice to her about it. And she keeps trying to find ways into him. Like, she does not get up. It just turns into this obsession that becomes self-destructive towards Annette. I mean, towards the end of the movie, she's trying to make him really jealous, so she's hanging out with his douchebag friends, she's taking drugs, she's flirting with them, hanging off of them, making out with them. And then you're in the car with all of everybody, like all of Tony's friends. And two of his buddies are taking turns with Annette in the back seat, with like Tony and his other buddies sitting in the front of the car as it's moving. That part is just so disturbing. And I mean, that's a heavy scene. You see Annette like realize like, oh my God, I'm in way over my head. I can't believe this is it. Like, I would say she definitely was assaulted. And I would also say she put herself in that situation too. And it just escalated out of control. And it's just mind-blowing. Like, nobody in the front says anything. She starts crying in it. And it is heavy and it's sad. It's embarrassing. You can just feel the shame and like, I don't know, your heart breaks for her and the horror. And then like how these guys treat this girl, it's just like she's nothing. Like she's an object. It is a very heavy, very dense scene that I don't know. It is the most unlikable probably thing in that entire movie. And then at the end, they park the car. The guys get out, and it's just Annette laying in the back. She's crying to herself. Tony's sitting there. He's like, I guess you're a aunt with a C in front of it. You know what I mean? Because in the beginning of the film, he asks Annette, he's like, Annette, you got to decide what you want to be in life. Are you a good girl or are you a C word? And I think that's what this film is also about too. It's about feeling like you're that time in your life when you're so invincible. I totally had it when I was in my early 20s. I felt invincible, unstoppable, or invincible. I felt invincible. I felt unstoppable. I felt, I was on my riding my high horse, and these people they're all feeling like they were indestructible. And then they were reckless in their behaviors and their actions, and they have to suffer the consequences. And I think there's this really dark element. Even Stephanie, you know, Tony really idolizes Stephanie because she's this representation of something different, something more. Now, she is older than Tony, and she's like more of like becomes this older sister mentor to him, but she even says like, I kind of liked your admiration of me. It was nice to like have somebody actually like found me like interesting and special. I think she really needed that. And so she kind of fed into Tony, even though she knew he was attracted to her. She kind of just like, I mean, she was very clear, but she also like really enjoyed his admiration of her, which no shame. But even Tony finds out that she's not, you know, super clean cut either. She has also some interesting darker things about her and how she worked her way up to the top and how she found her apartment in Manhattan. Like, nobody's perfect in this world. Everyone has some baggage in their closets, you know? And I think Tony's starting to realize this. He's really starting to see these darker elements, you know? Also, his friend Bobby, he's like the little brother of the group, and I liked Bobby. And he's just trying to find friends and support. And the problem is his friends are not good people. You know, Tony has got his own thing. He's looking a different way. And then his other friends who were with him, like, those guys are so just awful people. And then you got Bobby, who's like, I got my girlfriend pregnant. I don't know what to do. And he doesn't really have a support. And so there's like, again, there's like all of these really heavy themes that happen. And the thing with the disco aspect, it was an escape. I mean, the scenes cut to 2001 Odyssey, it is like a dream. Everyone's floating around on the dance floor, getting lost in the lights and the music of like the Bee Gees. I mean, it is just intoxicating. It really, like, I get it. I think the disco is kind of this escape from reality. And then reality catches up with you. So, I've talked a lot about this film. By the way, my favorite Bee Gees song is More Than a Woman, if you were wondering. I think that's great. But I do recommend this film. It's great. It's not what you expect it is. I hope you appreciate it. You know, it's just like this movie that I think is just meant to be this like dance film, and it's so imperfect. There's so many imperfections of these people and these characters' lives that I think is beautiful. It's real, it's raw, and I think you'll find yourself identifying with certain moments of it too, which I really like. It makes it more relatable, even though we're all not wearing cool leisure suits anymore. You know, it'd be cool if we all wore suits again and stuff, but I digress. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you become a Bee Gees fan as well with all of this as well. All right, thank you. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.